Have you ever noticed that when you think you're better off with siblings with whom you might have more in common, you find out you're no better off with them than the ones you're already dealing with? Well, that's what Lincoln found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro. Today's episode is One of the Boys. In this episode, Lincoln wishes he had 10 brothers instead of 10 sisters, and Lisa gives him a universe-jumping watch that will take him to that reality. This is the infamous Rule 63 episode where we see how the main girl characters would officially look if their appearances and names were swapped from female to male, and how Lincoln would officially look if he were a girl named Linka. However, this episode is not typically liked among many of the fans, and it's honestly not hard to see why barely anyone likes it. For one thing, each set of siblings Lincoln encounters in each universe are all presented as collectively the same, but in different ways. The girls are seen as overbearing and overprotective in a more feminine way in one universe, while the Linka universe presents their male counterparts in pretty much the same manner. In the 11 Brothers universe, Lincoln's 10 male siblings are barely different from one another, besides displaying the common character traits from each of their female counterparts. And of course, unlike the world consisting of 10 sisters, there is no long line for the bathroom, so that's a plus for the 11 Brothers universe. But anyway, the boys mostly act as more gross, physically rough, and pretty much embracing every boy stereotype you can think of. In other words, they all act like Lynn, both the male and female version of the same character. Which is interesting because not only does the male Lynn pull Lincoln's pants down as a joke, but the female version does the same thing, just as Lincoln directly points out how his sisters are nothing like his brothers except for one. The only thing I find remotely interesting about the brothers is how Lynn and the youngest siblings are all voiced by their original female voice actors, whereas the 4 eldest siblings are voiced by the 4 main actors from the 2012 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know if this was just a bizarre coincidence or if these casting choices were supposed to have something to do with Ninja Turtles, but that's about as far as the good things go when it comes to each character trying to stand out from one another, which they don't, but they could have. There's not enough time to really define each male sibling so they can be more distinguishable from one another, which is another detriment to the episode. This should have been a 20-minute special, so at least there wouldn't have been a need to write all the boys as practically the same character. It also could have helped in Lincoln's journey by coming to realize, more organically mind you, that he's better off living with 10 girls than 10 boys. However, the girls are written in a way where they're subjectively not too different from their male counterparts. Unlike the boys, however, the girls are not as physically abusive with their brother or always punching or verbally attacking him for the dumbest and jerkish reasons. It's true the girls have done similar things in other episodes, but not to the level as seen here. The girls are kind of written like they were in the episode Heavy Metal, where they're mostly looking out for Lincoln with good intentions and standing up for him to a degree. His brothers, on the other hand, couldn't care less about how he was feeling about anything and would rather screw around with him both physically and verbally just for their own satisfaction instead of helping him. In other words, each universe has their pros and cons, and yet you can make the case how Lincoln is pretty much screwed no matter where he ends up. So him saying he's not going to complain about having all sisters instead of brothers doesn't really carry that much weight when the similarities and differences are nearly the same, despite one universe not being as physically or verbally abusive as the other. If this were a 20-minute special where each of the 10 siblings from their respective universe were written as uniquely different from one another, there could have been more time to see why the girl universe was better than the boy universe, other than Lincoln defaulting to something very underwhelming like, one universe isn't going to hurt me as much. I suppose it doesn't really matter because everything that happened was all a dream and Lisa never really gave Lincoln a watch in the first place. They basically pulled a butterfly effect ending, only this one wasn't as amusing or creatively thought out given how the story got from point A to B. Overall, this episode didn't really accomplish much of anything other than getting a glimpse into the official Rule 63 side of the Loud House. I know the episode was trying to reinforce the message of learning learning to appreciate what you have because things could be much worse if you didn't, which is true in some regards. But given the circumstances, nothing is all that much different between the universes Lincoln finds himself in. However, I guess settling for the main universe where he's not abused as much is something positive, but that lesser of two evils moral just seems a little depressing with all things considered. The last thing worth mentioning is how it seemed very uncharacteristic for half of the sisters to decline on going to Dairyland when half of them wanted to go there in the episode Intense Debate. So to wrap things up, the episode needed to be longer with many character revisions and give Lincoln a better opportunity to realize he has more to gain from living with 10 sisters than brothers. At least then the final product wouldn't have come off as so poorly written, but what we got is what we got. With that said, I give One of the Boys a 3.6 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of One of the Boys. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.